I survived 100 days in Terraria's Vitality mod. Well, not exactly. As you can already tell by the length of this video, I beat this mod in less than 100 days. I beat it in 42. I'm not sure if it's because the weapons were overpowered, the bosses were too easy, or if I'm just way too good at this game. Regardless, I had a lot of fun with this mod, and let me know what mod to play next. This is the Vitality mod. On day 1, I decided I would go for the ranged class, just because I hadn't done it in a while, and it ended up working out because I found a blowpipe right away. I had never actually used the blowpipe before, but it's pretty fire. I then went mining for some early game ores. Afterwards, I began making a house, and I also made cactus armor. The blowpipe combined with the cactus armor was a deadly combo, making night 1 super duper easy. I began day 2 doing research on various ranged weapons. The one I settled on being a shotgun named the Gold Gauger, but I needed bronze alloy to make it, and that needed copper and tin ore to make. For the meantime, I made a wooden slingshot that uses glass marbles as ammo. I found a handful of tin, but I couldn't find any copper anywhere, so I used an altar to convert some of the tin into copper. Once I got home, I made the Gold Gauger, then made some NPC housing and started the hellstone. I spent the morning of day 3 waiting for the arms dealer to arrive so that I could actually use the Gold Gauger. Once I was prepped and ready to go, I headed to the left to find a cave. It took me all day, but the Gold Gauger proved itself to be amazing. I eventually found a cave in the jungle to explore, but as soon as I entered it, I died. Once I had respawned, I went to check out the Master Chef NPC, but he's not very useful unless you go melee. Now there was no way in hell I was going to go all the way back to the jungle just to die right away again, so I went to the right and found a frozen cave that gave me just enough platinum to make a pickaxe. I then used that pickaxe to mine crimtane ore and make the tendon bow. On day 5 I decided that I hated the tendon bow and I wanted something else. After some research I found a weapon called the barrel that would shoot sharks. It sounded awesome, but the materials required to make it were all the way at the ocean, so I began my trek. After almost an entire day I had finally gotten to the ocean, but died before I could get enough shells. I ended the day by starting my walk all the way back. About midway through the next day I got back to the ocean and died again before I could get all the shells, so I decided to walk all the way to the other ocean instead to finish gathering what I needed. On day 7 I had finally made the barrel and realized that it's pretty much just a musket that does a teensy bit more damage. Afterwards I made more housing and continued the elevator. I spent day 8 doing a shit ton more mining and setting up the Brain of Cthulhu arena. I stayed home on day 9 to make magic storage and fix up the house a bit. Once that arrived, I lost to the Eye of Cthulhu. The next day I made the King Slime spawner, defeated him, but I didn't get the mount. And to make matters even worse that day, the Goblin army showed up and annoyed the shit out of me. Once I'd finally defeated them, I continued the elevator. I continued the elevator into the next day and desperately tried to find Hermes boots. Eventually I had found them and continued mining. On day 13 I made gold armor and defeated the Eye of Cthulhu. On day 14 I just barely lost to the Brain of Cthulhu, but had acquired all of the crimtane and tissue samples needed to make the Deathbringer pickaxe and start mining hellstone. Once I had plenty of hellstone, I was hoping to make like a hellstone armor set, but there didn't seem to be any modded ones, so I went back and stuck with the Robin armor that would increase my arrow damage. I then debated on what weapon I should make next. There wasn't anything very good, so I just stuck with the Molten Bow for the meantime. The Robin armor and the Molten Bow made a nasty combination. On day 16, I defeated the Brain of Cthulhu. Later on, I had to deal with another Goblin army, but they were no match for me. The next day, I made an arena just for whatever is needed at the time. Once the arena was finished, I defeated the first Vitality boss, Stormcloud. It gave me the Storm's Blessing, which increased my stats, namely my speed. I then made another arena underground to fight the next boss, the Gemstone Elemental. It was super duper easy. I started day 18 making a shit ton of storage. Like, I made like 6 hellstone containers, I think. It was kind of crazy. Afterwards, I farmed for Antlion mandibles to make the ancient crown in order to summon the Grand Antlion. Once it was made, I went over to the dungeon to make the Skeletron arena. Later that night, I defeated the Skeletron and even had enough time to defeat the Grand Antlion. Most of day 19 was spent in the dungeon. There wasn't anything new that I noticed other than the vanilla enemies dropping new weapons. I needed the gun masa and the aqua bow for future upgrades, but I got neither of them. Later that night, I got lots of money from the Brain of Cthulhu. I defeated the Moonlight Dragonfly super early on day 20. I honestly didn't think I'd have enough time to do so, but I just barely made it. Afterwards, I got to thinking that maybe the shadow chest in hell had some new stuff in them, so I went back to the dungeon to get a shadow key. While getting the shadow key, I also got the gun masa. I had also gotten a handgun which I turned into the Phoenix Blaster. I then got a bunch of stingers and spores to convert the gold gauger into a boomstick. Once I had all of the pieces, I combined them together to make the blood blaster. I also made lightning boots and a jester bow for future upgrades. On day 21, I started making the Hell Highway and continued it through day 22. While I was doing this, I got a really good chance to test out the Blood Blaster, and it was pretty fire. On day 23, I defeated the Wall of Flesh. Afterwards, I farmed the fuck out of some spiders to get spider fangs and make the spider bow. The bows in this mod are very interesting because I noticed that instead of the bow shooting whatever arrow you have in your inventory, it shoots an arrow specific to that bow. Like for example, the spider bow shoots venom arrows. Once I had this bow, I vowed to never use another vanilla weapon for the remainder of this playthrough. I ended the day breaking some altars. Day 24 was all about hard mode ores. I zipped through the cobalt and mithril, but I struggled a lot with titanium this time around. I felt like I had broken enough altars, but I guess I didn't. Eventually on day 25 I got enough titanium to make a titanium hunting rifle, and let's just say I was no longer afraid of the enemies. I then wanted to see if there was anything cool I could make with Souls of Light and or Night. After a bit of research, I found this weapon called the Crystal Blaster, but this weapon was legitimately broken. It says fast fire rate, but it shoots once every like 5 to 10 seconds, so I just scrapped the gun. Later that night, I made titanium armor and the destroyer arena. On day 26, I decided I needed some wings, so I made crystal wings out of the same stuff that I made the Crystal Blaster from. Thankfully, the wings actually worked. Once night had fallen, I started the destroyer fight. I defeated the destroyer early on day 27. Using the hollowed bar and the jester bow that I crafted earlier, I made the Starstruck bow. Just a few minutes later, a solar eclipse happened, which gave me a wonderful opportunity to test out this new bow, and it was fucking amazing. As amazing as this new bow was, I cancelled the event because it was super annoying and I wasn't getting anything from it. I then went over to the snow biome and mined a bunch of Arctic ores since it spawns after one mechanical boss has been defeated. With the Arctic ore, I was able to craft the Arctic armor set. On day 28, I updated the arena next to my house to accommodate for the twins. Afterwards, I went to hell to fight the Dreadnought, and it was, by far, the easiest boss fight I've ever done in this game. After the Dreadnought was defeated, I went straight to fighting the Anarcules Beetle, and this boss was also super duper easy. At this point, I have now defeated 2 bosses in a row, and I actually couldn't and still can't tell if the bosses are too easy or if I'm way too good at this game. Later that night, I defeated the twins. I have no fucking clue what's going on. All I know is that the carnage, it does not end here. Before 2 AM, within 2 minutes, I defeated the Chaos Bringer on day 29, but he was definitely harder than the others. Directly after the Chaos Bringer, I defeated the Queen Slime and came to the conclusion that it's these fucking arrows. The Starstruck bow shoots these things called Starstruck arrows. And you know all the little stars that you've been seeing? It shoots all those little stars out and they're fucking nuts. Now I forgot to record this bit, like I do in every single video. But all that happened was I defeated the Skeletron Prime, farmed for the Aqua Bow in the dungeon, used the Aqua Bow to make the Bloody Star, turned that into the true Bloody Star, and then made the true Starstruck. This all sounds like a lot, and it was. I'm very sorry I forgot to hit the button. On day 30, I had to make another Starstruck bow because the true Starstruck only fired arrows from the sky. Since all of the mechanical bosses were dealt with, I got some Chlorophyte ore. Once I had enough Chlorophyte, I made Chlorophyte armor. The next 2 days were dedicated to the Plantera, but I made the arena a little different this time around. Instead of making it wider, I made it taller to accommodate for the true Starstruck. Once it was all over with, I defeated the Plantera. On day 33, I summoned a solar eclipse so that I could get a broken hero sword and make the final ranged weapon, the All-Star, and this weapon was crazy good. Later on, I made a surface mushroom biome. I needed more Starstruck arrows for the Golem fight, so on day 34, I went to the dungeon to get more ectoplasm. Once I had a good amount of arrows, the moment I dreaded the most had finally arrived, searching for the jungle temple. But I thought I would see if that one guy that sells all the other teleport potions like other areas of the world, I thought maybe he'll have a jungle temple one. I've never seen it, but I thought I would check, and to my surprise he did. I then defeated the Golem in like under 30 seconds. I knew the boss was easy, but come on man, I haven't had any challenge this mod yet, where is it? The truffle finally moved in on day 35 thanks to the mushroom biome I built, and I was able to make shroomite armor. I also made a shroomite dart gun, and it was pretty fucking good. The boss up next was the final vitality boss, the Paladin Spirit. I was to make an arena in the dungeon and fight this spirit in its domain, and that's exactly what I did. On day 36 I built the arena, crafted a spirit box, and fought it with all I had. Once I had laid the spirit to rest, I defeated the lunatic cultist and then got started on the Stardust Pillar. For the next 3 days, I took down pillar after pillar, each step bringing me closer and closer to the end. During this time, I made the Phantasm just in case the All-Star didn't work out versus the Moonlord, and it didn't. I lost to the Moonlord the first time around, mainly because I wasn't wearing the Charm of Myths. I think if I was wearing it, I wouldn't have had the issue with potions and I would have been just fine. With the Charm of Myths, I was able to beat him the next day. The last thing I had left to do was make the endgame weapon, the Onyx Beater, and all I needed for it were Dark Shards. Once I had gotten them and made the Onyx Beater, I knew I had to take it for a test drive on some older bosses. Hey, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching and supporting me thus far. I never thought I would go from 18 subscribers to almost 1,000 in just a few months. It's been fucking crazy. Let me know what mod you all want me to do next, and that's all I have for me. See you later.